What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. How's everybody doing? Need to get hydrated with Pepsi because, you know, that's how I roll. Got a pretty exciting, I don't really want to call it a show, but I guess it technically is a show. Friendly chap, how's it going? Got a pretty exciting episode. Let's call it an episode because it's funnier. We'll just wait for some more viewers to get in, and I'll tell you all about it. Yelnats, what's going on? Colon Blow, greetings. DJ Elf, how's it going? How's everybody doing today? Hey, you know what? It is hot as balls outside for me. How is everybody? What's the temperature like where everyone's at? It is literally 30 degrees where I am right now. Let me just confirm that it still is. When I got home from work today, it was 30 degrees. 29. It is hot as hell. Oh, sorry, Yelnats. I speak Canadian, so, you know. At 90 degrees in Canadian temperature would be death. Literally, we would die. Everybody would die. It's hot there too, yeah. Not to get into the whole political side of things, but kind of makes a person wonder if maybe they're not right about some of that stuff. Yelnat says 32 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that's hot. Man, that's hot. The worst I've ever seen in my life, when I was a kid, we went to Disneyland when I was a kid. And I remember it being 104, 105 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was a kid, so I didn't really give a shit, but that was hot. That was hot. Oh, you're in Cali. There you go. Yeah, so that's exactly where I was. Anyways, so today we are talking all about BattleMetrics. That is what today's video is all about. I've invited some guest speakers on, and they're in the waiting room right now, and I can't wait to introduce them to you guys. Most of you already know Lone from Lone.design. He's definitely one of the guests. He's going to show us a couple of maybe tricks of the trade that I didn't know about, so I'm expecting that not many other people know about, which is super cool. And then we've also got Hordicus, which is Hordicus is, as far as I understand it, basically the designer of BattleMetrics. But I'm going to let him tell you guys, you know, how he got involved and where it all started, and if there was other people involved. We'll get into all that as soon as I bring them in. Yeah, Lone has a trigger pack, exactly. I'm fully expecting him to discuss that a little bit. Greetings from Austria. Welcome. Yeah, I'm betting it's hot in Austria. Rust update was small. It was small, but significant. I was pretty happy with it. I haven't actually had a chance to play yet, so maybe I won't be. Who knows? Has anybody tried the hardcore mode yet? That's probably the biggest. I don't really want to say that. It's probably the biggest thing for me, anyways. Out of this update was the hardcore mode. I'm excited to see what that looks like. I won't be excuse me. I won't be running hardcore mode on any of my servers, but I will definitely go in and check it out on somebody else's server. Hardcore officials are packed. Yeah, that I could see. That makes sense. Anyways, let's get to it. So let's bring in Lone from Lone.design. Welcome, Lone. How's it going?
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for having us today.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. And then let's bring in Hordicus. Welcome, Hordicus.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. So, oops, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. That's a little bit better. So unfortunately, Hordicus is shy and doesn't want to show off his face, but that's all right. We won't judge. It's all good.
Oh, it's more important just for people not to judge my background. I couldn't be bothered to clean.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's all right. So, as I'm sure you guys just heard, just a real quick introduction. Many of you already know who Lone is from Lone.design, but tell everybody who you are for somebody that maybe has never met you before.
Sure. To keep it short and sweet, I've played Rust since early 2014, back whenever it was Legacy. Been an avid Rust player since. I want to say around 2017, 2018, I started getting into the server side of things. And around 2019, I started dabbling in Rust Edit, which is a mapping program that's free for everybody to use. And I started creating things, and it was enjoyable. And I decided to list that, and it evolved into an entire marketplace where we have well over 60, 50, 60, 70 vendors on the site that sell their own creations.
Sure has evolved, and it evolved quickly too.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah. And Hordicus, tell us a little bit about your history with, I know you come from other games, and we'd love to hear about that too. So tell us all about it.
Sure. So I'm the co-owner of BattleMetrics. We've been doing this since 2014 when we started. Before that, though, I was a game server host. We used to host a community in Arma 2 and Arma 3 called Stalk and Strike Gaming. We created the RCON tool primarily to service that game. And then as things went on, we got out of the game server hosting business and made the RCON tool available to everyone.
Gotcha. And so then, was born BattleMetrics.
Pretty much, yeah. It's we started it while we were still running the game server community, so we had a good opportunity to test it, live with real admins and real players during our development cycle. And now we've branched out to I don't even know how many games we have now, but it's quite a few.
Yeah, there's a lot on there. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess so. I'm coming from an angle where, like you and I discussed the other night, I've been using BattleMetrics for many years, and I've never really utilized it to its anywhere near its fullest potential. So I'm assuming back, in 2014 when you first started BattleMetrics, it started out as something small and then has now grown into what it is today. So maybe talk about what that progression was.
Sure. Yeah, we were really, really small back then. I mean, it was like nobody was using the website except for us and a handful of other people. Initially, we just started out as kind of like a game tracker competitor. The only thing that the site offered was tracking game servers and play, and stuff like that. We didn't even have a player search. It was very basic. Eventually, I think it was 2016, we released the RCON tool, and that's what kind of got us into this sphere. And it's sort of been growing like wildfire ever since. Server admins are generally very happy with what we provide, and the features have kind of grown and grown and grown.
I agree, and it like I've experienced in the past couple of months. It is an incredible tool, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, is to hopefully show some people maybe some of the tricks and tools that they might have right in front of them that they don't even know is there or how to use it. And so, and as I talked about earlier, Lone has a trigger pack that you can get from Lone.design. And actually, that being said, let me just
It's actually just on a Google Drive. I don't have it on.
Oh, it's not available from the website?
No, it's just an open Google Doc that anybody can open.
Oh, I see. I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what I was just going to go look at. So I'm glad you saved me from having to do that.
Yeah, I can drop it in the chat if YouTube will even allow. Okay, yeah.
I think you have perms on here, so you should be able to.
Gotcha.
So maybe, okay. So what Lone is putting in the chat right now is basically a pack of triggers that you can add to BattleMetrics. Actually, why am I explaining it when you're right there?
Yeah, so I don't want to. Hordicus would probably be best to paraphrase what BattleMetrics is, but in my own words as a user of the tool, it is the end-all moderation tool for anybody hosting a server. It has so many different features and tools for banning players, monitoring your server ranking as far as compared to everybody else. It's got, like Bull was saying, triggers, and what a trigger is basically a very conditionalized action that you can. There's a plethora of different avenues you can go with it. Let's say you wanted to automatically give somebody a permission if they say something in chat, like if they say something positive, like good and server in the same message, you can give them a large present with a RCON command. If they say a not so pleasant word, you can also issue them a mute command or go play on a different server command.
Right.
So it's really cool. You can open up the doc that I dropped in the chat and view all of them. I want to say there's somewhere around 20, but they should be some of the most helpful ones for me personally. Like logging purposes, I can see whenever an admin int kills an item in game. So that way, if I know somebody may be abusing their power, or if just for general purposes of logging,
Right.
Spawning items, rewarding players for saying positive messages, like I was saying, because that's been a really unique one on my server recently.
That's
yeah,
a really
it's really
interesting
cool.
one. Hordicus and I were discussing it the other night, and I couldn't think of things, and that's a really great one right there. Giving people benefits for being nice players, I guess.
Yeah,
Lone,
being a pleasant human.
Lone, you might want to repaste that link. People are saying they can't see it.
Yeah, I'm actually, why don't you send it to me in Discord, Lone, and I'll make sure that it gets in there. I'm not sure. It might have blocked it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It all is owned by Google, so if they're not wanting to see their own Google Docs.
Yeah, true.
But to
Lone, how
continue
many
on about
hours do you have?
Yeah,
sorry,
just
go ahead.
to supplement about triggers, I mean, you can basically do just about anything you want. The only thing that triggers can't do is they can't do math. You can't compare one trigger to another trigger easily, and you can't compare counter values to each other if you use a counter in a trigger. But triggers are kind of like a really simplified programming language. So if you're not a programmer, that's okay. It's basically just Boolean logic, if you know what that is. As Bull was saying to me the other night, it's a lot of if-else statements, is one way to summarize it. So if you have, 8 conditions, you say, I want to set a rule, and it has to have 8 criteria in order to satisfy the rule. You can do that with the trigger. You just say, if condition 1 is true and condition 2 is true and condition 3 is false, that's what a trigger is for.
Right.
The question is just, what conditions do you want to use? And that's going to vary from admin to admin. You got to decide what things you want to automate.
Right. Okay, so for everyone in chat, I've just dropped the link in there. And so hopefully you guys can access that now. Okay, perfect. It's up. So why don't we just jump right into it then? And we can actually show people what it is that we're talking about. So for example, okay, so like Hordicus was saying, BattleMetrics started out as an RCON, or yeah, I guess that's probably fair to say, isn't it? Or moved into the RCON.
Yeah, we had the RCON tool was private for a very long time. I think we had developed that in 2015 or earlier. And we had the main website running up in sort of like the background. RCON got merged in 2016 for public use.
Gotcha. Okay. So then I'll go back a step then, and I'll show you what it's all about. And like we can search specific keywords, I guess it would be, and we can search by what type of game, and then we can see all of the different servers that are available for that. So like, for example, I'm just looking up my own right now. So here's mine that I currently have. And then it gives you all of this information about the server, and it doesn't have to be your own server. You can literally search up anybody's server, and it would give you this much information. But what's cool about it is we also have direct access to the RCON. So this is not
actually,
as
Bull, if I can pause you might actually want to
Sure.
jump back. I saw a good opportunity for something people miss. You see there's a button there called Edit Description. When you claim your server on RCON, you can actually post your own information to the website. So if you want to post your own like links back to your store, your own website for as a server admin, people will often we often outrank the communities that we're listing. So if you want people to redirect to your website or go to your VIP page, that's a really useful thing that you should definitely have filled out on your server page.
So once I do this, it would add this area right here.
It would be underneath all of that. You'll have a separate section with like links, and you can put descriptors in there. We have
I
to
gotcha.
we have to go through an approval process to make sure that there's not like malicious
Yeah,
links going in there. But
that makes sense.
we do them in batches every now and then, and so don't be upset if it takes a little while for us to get to it.
Gotcha. Just making sure you're not linking to like Pornhub or OnlyFans or something like that.
Correct.
Gotcha. So, and then moving right into the RCON. So this basically negates any of your externals, even some of your maybe your hosts, RCON panels. Like you've got direct access to everything right here. It's all accessible from BattleMetrics.com, and you've got it all right in front of you. And you can treat this exactly as you would any other RCON. So Rust admin or even your built-in provider's RCON, it works exactly the same way. It is the exact same thing.
But
I like
better.
the feature that you can actually chat through the console as well. So you can select either a raw command or a chat message. Like actually, all of your windows are a little bit different, but you see how where one says bull and the other one says raw mode.
Yeah.
One's actually like that one's the console. So you can actually execute a command, so like a reload a plugin, while the one on the right is selected to like a player message. So you can just say, "Hey everybody," and it'll show bull in game.
Right. Gotcha.
And if you wanted to send a message to all of your servers at once, there's a little bar at the top.
Yes.
And that's a broadcast command across all servers.
Right. So we could do like anything in here, anything you can do in console, it would then trigger it across all of the servers that you have access to on this dashboard.
Correct.
So
And
everything from a say command to a ban command, I guess, technically.
yeah, you can toggle that. I mean, there's the server commands drop down for the pre-built one, like for the preset ones. But if you wanted to
Right.
run a raw command, all you have to do is just switch yourself into raw mode on that broadcast bar.
Right.
And you can do the same thing you could do for any individual server.
Right. Gotcha. So if that wasn't enough right there, then let's start getting into the cool stuff. Not that this isn't cool, but let's get into the cooler stuff. Now,
This is just the sub screen. You can even go click the server specifically. Granted, if you click on yours, it'll show your players' information, but you can see all sorts of options there as well.
We were only really concerned about, yeah, that's what I was concerned about.
If you choose one of the the Project Nova servers, I think you have the appropriate permissions on that one.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
that's better.
Yeah. So this screen even offers additional information that you wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah.
Better layout. So you can click on the down arrows on each one of your players and select all sorts of options there.
And there's
search for players
tooltips
from the list.
Yeah, and there's tooltips for just about everything. Like if you see there's like a little messaging icon, you can tell that there's a player note. You can hover over the note; it'll tell you there's a note. The star. If you don't know what that means, you can hover over it. That means first time player. That's the first time they've been seen on your server.
Okay.
So there's a lot more data we can show on this screen compared to the main dashboard. Most people never go to the individual server page. I don't know why. There's so much more information here. But obviously, if you want to monitor a lot of servers at once, people are going to spend most of their time on the dashboard.
Right, of course.
That's fair.
So these are the notes that you're... Oh, I see. Okay, so I won't open any of these. So just so that everyone is aware, I requested access to Project Nova's RCON so that I could show you all kind of an active dashboard and stuff like that. This isn't actually one of my servers. It's actually one of Lone's servers. And so we've kind of reduced a little bit of the information that you might possibly see so that we're not doxing anybody, basically. And so I'm not going to open up any of these notes or anything like that, just in case there's something in there that that Project Nova doesn't want broadcast to everybody, I guess.
Yeah, while we're here,
most of them... Go ahead, Hordicus.
One of the things that we did for this is to revoke access to CIPs. And this is something you can do for your sub-admins too. So if you don't want to have IPs being shared in your organization, you want somebody to be a chat moderator for you, but you don't trust them 100%, well, you can revoke their ability to see IP addresses. And that's what we've done with the Bull. So you see under that column address, all he gets is a scrambled message, and that's not a reversible hash. That's just a placeholder. Like that can't be turned into anything. So it's just nonsense.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't have any meaning.
Right, but that can
most
help
of the
you
notes
protect
you'll
your players.
see. Yeah,
What
for
was
sure.
that, Lone?
Yeah, most of the notes that you'll see on my players, I actually log on their profile. So with that trigger that I was saying about positive messages, I also log on their profile that they left a positive message. So if at a later date I ever needed to review this person, I see, hey, they've actually said some pretty nice things in chat. Let's be a little lenient with them if it was a rule that was already in like a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like if you were trying to moderate a player out or something, you could see a little bit of history.
And you can do that with any trigger. Most triggers I try to note and log as much as possible. So almost everything that happens in a trigger also sends to my Discord as well, which is super easy. You just paste the webhook URL in the trigger.
Yeah.
But it's just I can't speak highly enough of triggers, so it's the coolest thing.
I could just imagine, and I don't know that I'll be able to access it from this side, but I just imagine you have, like, how many triggers do you say you have? Like hundreds?
No, I don't know about hundreds. I would say probably 30 to 50.
Okay.
There are people that have hundreds.
I'm sure there are, yeah. And while we're discussing that, one of the benefits of doing it through BattleMetrics is the load on your server, which is to say there isn't any, really.
Yeah,
so
apart
instead
from
of doing all of these things with plugins, you can do it all with BattleMetrics with zero stress on your server.
Yeah, the only caveat to that is we run the status command, I think, at about 15-second intervals, but I think we let you slow that down under server settings
Okay.
or connection settings, so you can change that. But apart from that, it's basically just the volume of commands that your server can handle. Otherwise, all the processing is done on our servers. So parsing messages, all of that, that's on us. But obviously, if we issue a command to your server, whatever performance impact goes along with those commands, that's going to hit your server too,
Of
just like any
course.
RCON tool.
But as a umbrella term, very low impact on the server.
For sure.
And very easy to reduce what your plugins are doing to your server right now. You could transfer that load to BattleMetrics and increase the performance on your server.
For sure. And I know people have approached us quite a bit in the past to ask whether or not they can replace, plugin A with a trigger. And usually it's possible. There's only a couple things that aren't easily done.
You'd have to get pretty creative with. You got to be able to think about it from a different avenue, and then you can probably come up with a way of doing it. Yeah. The Peachy Viking in chat asking Lone, how many hours do you have on your main account?
How many hours do I have versus how many hours have I played? I'm not going to try to claim them all.
That's the thing.
So I would say there's a lot of, well, in short, 26,230.
Wow.
But
yeah.
I would say no more than 6K of that's playtime.
Right.
The rest is AFK, mapping, or admin work solely.
Yeah. That's unfortunately that happened with my account too. I'm probably over 13,000 right now too, but I would probably say the same.
Yeah, you ever get message from people like, "Hey, you want to join my squad?" And what's your AK recoil beam?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just looking at your
I'm
play
the worst
time, thinking that's
26K hour player there probably is.
Yeah, I fall into that category myself. Let me just make sure we're caught up on chat, and then we'll move into. Hey, Lone, is there a trigger if they post their Discord in chat logs?
Yeah, there is. It's not one I want to make super public, but I did have him message me on Discord. If you're interested, give me a shout on Discord, and I'll help you out. But
there you go. Oh, you did respond to that in there.
Yeah.
Cat Games, how's it going? Welcome to the stream.
I'm seeing a question here. Someone's asking about a user. I'm trying to understand this. What identifies a user in the user list on BattleMetrics? Since on mine, I have myself shown twice with different hours, but the same name. So I think you're probably encountering a public profile on that one. For any server that we don't have an RCON connection with, you're going to have the player name is the only thing available to us. When we query a server, that's all that it returns is just the player name. So that's all we can use for matching players together. When we have an RCON connection, we get those Steam 64 IDs and IPs, and we can use those to improve the accuracy of the public profile. So if you see that you're split up across different profiles, or there's somebody with the same name as you, it's just because there's a name match. I know that we have something coming up soon. I'm hoping in the next month or two, where we will be trying to consolidate player profiles into RCON profiles and non-RCON profiles, and that way there's no more splitting or merging of profiles at all.
So what you're suggesting is that maybe there's BMG Jet is seeing the information from a completely different player.
It's entirely possible. It could be him as well. It depends on how uncommon the name is and whether or not he was playing on an RCON server.
Gotcha.
But in the future, hopefully we'll have that problem solved, that when you look at a player on an RCON profile, the only data you see is going to be verified RCON data.
Gotcha. Colin. Yes, I'm still calling you Colin. I refuse to call you what that actually says. Finally caught us. Yeah. So you stop in for 5 minutes and you got to roll. All right. That's, I guess, to be fair, we're 25 minutes in. So that's cool. I appreciate you stopping by, though. Warrior has nothing on loan.
I don't know who Warrior is, but I probably don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Probably somebody with a lot of hours or something.
Could be, yeah. Could be like a Beach Hills or something like that. Who knows?
Typical mods wanting to, I think, catch cheaters in a live stream.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So anyways.
Not as efficient as Komomo is.
Yeah.
I'd probably goof something on a stream doing that.
I've often wondered too, like, I wonder how much work he does in the background to make it as entertaining as he does, because like there's no way I could make those kinds of moves the way that he does in that short a time that he does.
Yeah.
I do.
No, he has some mad keybinds, or
so.
The Stream Deck or something. The 1 million button Stream Deck probably for every different bind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's get into some of these triggers that we're talking about. Oops, going to the wrong thing.
See, this is how you know how many hours someone has in Rust and whether or not they're played, is how accurate they are with the clicks.
That's actually fair. So give me an example of a simple trigger that you're using, and then we'll go in and have a look at it.
Sure. You should be able to go to, let's say, the green card tip towards the bottom.
Okay.
This one is a unique one, so it's not one that I mean, you could just slightly, so at the top is where you're going to actually select your trigger type. So where you want it to actually initiate from, and I want it to be a player message. And then just below it, you can just leave that default. So all of this is already pre-configured.
Yeah.
And then the name, I don't know what personal trigger does. Hordicus, what actually does that option?
So personal triggers are basically meant to be like notification style triggers. So they're meant to basically be just for you and not for the whole organization. So let's say you don't want to ban someone, but you just want to send yourself an email or an SMS or something like that when some event happens. That's what personal triggers are for. But you can also, it's more than that though. You can use it to tag messages that that you don't want the whole organization to see that you're tagging messages. Like let's say you want to filter out a certain spammy message, but some other admin might want to see that. So you just use a personal trigger for that.
That's cool.
Makes sense.
And then down below that section where it says rate limit, this trigger I have initiate once every 4 minutes. So that way it can't be spammed in chat. What this trigger does is basically when somebody types a message asking where the green card is, I have an automatic response that says the green card can be found at these locations. And how that works is these conditions right here. I'm not a pro with regex, which is regular expressions, but how I usually lay it out is I have like an alpha word. So I want for sure green to be the main word that's in the sentence. And then I have follow words like how, what, where, and then a question mark or a question mark. So if it contains green and let's say where, and does not contain the words below, like blue, red, trade, PvP, etc., then it'll trigger the message down below in the action section. And that's where it's going to say, let's see, yeah, green cards can be found at those monuments.
Gotcha.
And this is a very unique example, but you can do all sorts of customized, like if you have a unique plugin that you had made and you want to add one more layer of education that you want to make as easy as possible, like what are the commands for this server? You can have a trigger that automatically responds for that.
Right.
So,
and you can, like, so this one is a very simple response. This is just sending a message in chat. You could also make it so that it triggers, like you were just saying, you can make it so that it triggers a plugin. Now, Hordicus, is it possible to? No, I don't think it is. I was going to say, like Lone was just saying, what are the commands for this server? Can we make BattleMetrics trigger so that the info panel pops up on that player?
Only to the extent that there's a command available for it. So
Right.
if there is a command in game, or that you can execute over RCON, then you can do it with triggers.
So let's say it was, well, this is getting really specific, and this definitely wasn't intentional, because you can do /info in game as the player, but how would you? I guess it's more of a plugin side as opposed to a BattleMetrics side. But how would you make it so that it happened for that player?
Presumably, if there's a plugin that handles that command, you would need the plugin to respond or to receive the RCON command saying, show info and then like a player ID or Steam 64 ID. But someone would have to program that into the plugin to make that.
Yeah, the plugin would need like a test command, like info panel.show space Steam ID, and that's the actual command. You could execute that from a trigger, but the trigger itself, BattleMetrics, isn't. It's just allowing that to be done. It doesn't actually like create that aspect of it.
Right. You would have to, that command would have to be built in, and then we would just trigger that command. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Or even like server rewards. Server rewards is a good example that kind of ties into your question. Is I know that they have issuable commands to send RP to a specific player. Right. So if you wanted to reward somebody for saying amazing server with a heart, you can do that condition, and then an action, you can set a console command that issues, I don't know the command, but server reward space 50 space Steam ID, and it sends them 50 RP.
Right.
Just for a rough, I don't know the commands, but you know.
And you could also put a cooldown on that too, so they wouldn't be able to spam that.
Yeah, that's
or
the limit right there, basically.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I don't think we've done. We haven't done this justice. Give me. I don't want to save that just in case.
I think some of the anti-cheating triggers are probably going to be more interesting to other people's. Which basically you got to come up with a rule. So a lot of folks will set a rule saying, I don't want anyone from China on my servers, or I don't want anyone who has a VAC ban that's more recent than 365 days, or I don't want someone who is from China and has a VAC ban. And so these are the kind, you can set these things up and, they can automatically ban people. You can kick them. You can post, a message to your Discord saying, hey, watch out, there's a VAC ban player from China on your server.
Right.
Red alert. Do it however you want. Anti-cheating triggers are probably the most important because they help you automate things that are sort of menial tasks that you would otherwise have to do by hand.
Right. Another good one is actually one that we're seeing on the screen right now, the N-word detection. So I'm not going to go into this rule because it's probably going to display something that we don't want to see. But I'm assuming what happens is anytime somebody uses the N-word in chat, it triggers a mute, triggers a kick. What does it do?
Yeah, so this one specifically is, I would say it's a step up from the green card tip trigger, and the fact that it looks for a keyword in chat, it issues a command, but it also has a counter, so it knows if it's been issued in the past, then number 2, increase the time. So I have 3 different increments on the N-word. Personally, everybody's subject to their own, but the first offense I mute for 3 days, the second offense I mute for 7 days, and the third offense I mute permanently, I believe.
Yeah. That's
That way it
that's
just
a good one.
slows down the progress and keeps chat as clean as possible.
So I used the analogy the other day. I'm hoping that everyone in chat is kind of getting the idea here. I used the analogy that it's an if then else statement. So anything that's happening, and the benefit of it is this is all automated. So you can set these if then else statements and then leave. And BattleMetrics takes care of all of the moderation for the rules that you have now set.
Yeah, and depending on what you set up and how deep you go, you can really reduce your workload. I think I've had some admins from the bigger servers basically saying that they were able to like cut their staff requirements by half
I bet.
because they didn't,
Easily.
they just don't need people to watch as closely for this kind of stuff. I did see another good one you have in here, which is the F7
Sure.
reports, which I'm sure people would be interested in.
Sure.
Yeah, you should be able to open that one up with no issues.
Okay.
This was actually one created by another person. I want to say this is one of the only triggers in the pack that I wasn't sure who the creator was. Let me see. But essentially, it just forwards anytime somebody F7 reports another player, it forwards to Discord. And furthermore, you can add it to where it also has that counter aspect. So if a player has been reported X number of times within X time frame, then hey, they're red alert, check them out. Personally, I have it set to ping our staff role whenever somebody is reported 5 times within 24 hours. And then it pings again 2 reports after that, 2 reports after that. So that way, like, we're on top of it.
Right. It's really bringing your attention to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll note for this trigger, for those of you that are looking to make triggers like this, if you want a trigger to run every single time that an event happens, leave the conditions section blank. Here, Lone does not have any conditions because every time that there's a player report, he wants that trigger to fire.
So we're not looking for caveats or anything like that in the conditions. So no matter what, every time there's an F7, it's going to get sent out.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to create conditions, but if you want it to happen every time, you got to leave that section blank.
Right, that makes sense. So, and then let's see what the response is. So we're doing a counter as well. And then we're sending a message to, let's see if I can expand this. We're not sending this to anywhere. How can that be?
Yeah, so this is, it looks like the very simple F7 report trigger. I have a ton of triggers. I could have purged a few before going through the list, but this one adds a note to the player. So in case you were to ever go on his BattleMetrics profile on the RCON side, not the public front end side,
Sure.
you could actually see, hey, this player was reported by so-and-so for this reason. And then right below, you can see the total F7s that they've been reported in total.
Right.
So this is on the simple side of it, but it's does the job.
Yeah, of course. It still gives you a record of everything. So is this report, does this record the person being reported as well as the person sending in the report?
It mentions the reporter's name, but it only adds the note to the person that's being reported.
Gotcha.
And for player reports, it's logged in the activity log anyways. That's where the trigger operates on it from. So on the player profile, you will see a entry in the activity log with, so-and-so reported so-and-so.
Gotcha.
But something else that Lone did here, which is probably useful for admins, is he used variables in his notes. And this is something super important that people don't do enough. So make sure you're using variables. If you're ever having a debug message or something that's being sent out to Discord, there are variables available for you to paste the values of whatever you're triggering on. So that way you can make sense of the message. And Bull, I think you know where to look. So
just like that?
Yeah, so the conditions table that he just clicked on in the upper right contains all of the available conditions and all of the available variables for every type of trigger. So you can kind of control F your way through and try to find what you're looking for.
So tons of different options, as well as formatting messages and formatting the different information that BattleMetrics is actually reporting.
Yeah, and one thing that you could even add to this trigger that this specific one doesn't have, but other ones that I know I have another one that does, is adding a webhook embed. So you can actually shoot it to Discord and have that all pretty formatted to where you can have those predetermined conditions, like you said, where it says like player name with their Steam ID next to it. And you can even hyperlink that Steam ID to open up their Steam profile, or his username to open up the BattleMetrics profile, and so on and so forth.
Do you have an example that we can look
Yeah.
at?
Let me I'll send you a screenshot in Discord.
Oh,
Let me
sure.
make sure there's no IP or anything. No, it's all good.
Yeah, while he's pulling that up, I saw someone ask a question. I think it's Villain Von Bad Guy asked, is there a way to eliminate server from showing in-game chat? And that depends on the game. So we send the command to the server. The server interprets that as an admin command coming from outside. It determines whether or not it's going to show that server prefix. I think people have plugins that change that, but it's a game function, not something we can control.
Sorry, I wasn't paying enough attention there. You just want to clarify, is he asking to just turn off global chat?
No, I think he wants to get rid of the server prefix before, like when an admin types into chat, it'll say server and then admin name and then the message.
I gotcha.
He wants to get rid of the server bit.
I gotcha. Okay. So this is a screenshot of what Lone was just talking about, a method that you can set up the embed to format a certain way. So this is how the information can potentially come across into your Discord if you're using those conditions from that gigantic list that we were just looking at a minute ago.
Yeah, and it would probably be nice to go through that list, that trigger pack as well, so they can easily see, because I do also include pictures on some of the examples as well, so that way they can visually see what some of the stuff does.
Well, let's have a look. I am certainly not opposed.
Gonna star out.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I quickly made an edit to a couple colorful words, so to put some stars.
I gotcha. So
I think everybody knows what your intention is here. That you're not trying. I think punishing the bad actors is you have the approval to use the words.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm sure I'm just trying to be as YouTube friendly as possible.
Exactly. Here. Yeah, we all know that the rules are there, and we try not to try not to step on them. So what would you like to have a look at? This is
so
huge.
I mean, the most common ones are going to be keeping your server clean and moderation purposes, like the Hordicus was mentioning, where you want to get alerted on high risk players or any sort of anti-cheat related triggers. So right at the top, you have two. One is to reduce homophobic missions, as well as automatically muting. The one just below that is the racism detection. And these are just picked up via regular expressions. So that regex that I mentioned earlier, where it picks up any variation of the word, whether you typed it in all caps or all lowercase or foreign characters, these will pretty much pick up 99.9% of cases.
Right.
And automatically mute and add a note to their profile.
But you could also take it one step further, where it doesn't mute them; it actually kicks them or bans them.
Yeah, like you could make it.
If you set your counter to let's say 10 or something like that, if they breach this rule 10 times, that can just automatically be kicked or banned from your server.
You can also delete their base and spawn them naked on. You
valid.
can do whatever you want.
That is
valid. You could actually issue the kill command. So like the kill player command, you could just make them die every time they do something that makes the condition that you set.
That is a valid point.
Yeah.
And as well as send them a message, hey dummy, stop doing that and we'll stop killing you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think someone actually has a whole pack of what they call punishment triggers, where basically they find someone who's cheating or doing something and they just either kill them or remove, they just mess with them all day.
Which is kind of fun
I didn't see earlier, Hordicus, was somebody wanted to ask, why can't you randomize or anonymize?
Anonymize?
I don't know if that's the right word. How I'm pronouncing it.
I think they
why
want
can't you
anonymize
player names when you have RCON connected? And
so
you can do that, can't you?
Not exactly. You can hide those players who want to be hidden from the player list. You can hide them from the player list. You have to use the client perf connection setting. If you go to update your connection settings on the server, you should see a little tick box that says use client perf or to detect streamer mode players. If we detect that a player is in streamer mode and you're using that command, we will hide them from the player list. The only time they'll show up is when they log off. It'll say, so-and-so left the game. but they won't be on the player list if they join with streamer mode. The reason we
Okay.
don't do that for every player is that, one, not every player wants to be hidden, and two, it's very, very difficult to maintain two separate player lists at the same time. It is a logistical nightmare from our perspective to try to match to try to keep track of both of those, so that here's the name we should be showing to the server admin, here's the name we should be showing to the public. That's a nightmare, and I can't understate how much of a nightmare that is, because we tried looking into it and it wasn't viable. So the client perf thing was the best solution that we could come up with for
I also
handling
don't
that.
know why there would be a situation like, when would that ever matter?
Well, the reason
Like,
it
I
matters is
understand.
the
Oh, go
reason I
ahead.
think he's asking is that the official Rust by default has the client sensor player list enabled by default. So
Mhm.
every server, if they don't change it, has censored player lists where all the names are streamer mode names. Um, a lot of admins don't like that, and so they turn it off. Or if they use our RCON, it's not compatible with the way that we do things because we can't maintain those separate
Oh, I
player
see.
lists.
Okay.
And so the way that they can kind of mitigate that is to enable the client perf command, which will hide the streamer mode people.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. Do you have to set each banned word its a million abbreviations, or is there a default set of banned words?
There are sets of them out there. I think there are whole lists that you can find. You'd have to Google around for them,
Mhm.
but you're probably going to want to use a regular expression. If you see a list of banned words, you can probably put that into a regular expression builder, which you can, I think, find on Google pretty
I
quickly,
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
and then paste that right into the trigger and see if it works.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's also nice to make the regular expression as efficient as possible. So if you're wanting to pick up the homophobic F word, for instance, instead of getting the entire word, the first three characters should suffice, because there's never a moment where FA and then golf is in the same phrase as any other word. So you
Right.
should be able to just regular expression that. Just as an example. Same thing
Yeah.
with like the N word as well. But you'll have to add some exclusions on the N word, because there is night, and a couple other words that have that. But that's what I did on some of the triggers in this pack as well. So regular expressions is a very powerful thing to learn as well. And
Yeah.
dueling that with BattleMetrics is like
Yeah.
awesome.
I can definitely see the benefit of that. It's like there's going to be a lot of trial and error. Yes, you're going to come across things that aren't going to get caught, especially when we're talking about the N word, because they've come up with some really creative ways of getting that past any kind of a filtering system that we might already have. But then once you see that, you just add that one that they just came up with, add that to your regex, and then it won't happen again.
This is actually, I think, a good opportunity to show another feature, because no matter how creative your bad players are, you can be more creative. So if you go to the activity log message for any player, and like let's say that there's a message, and you'd probably have to go back to your dashboard or the activity log. There's a timestamp that appears next to every message, and if you click that timestamp, it's going to open a menu. And on that menu, you can click the drop down value for trigger values, and you can automatically use that to create triggers. And so if they use
Mm,
some unique variation or some character that you've never seen before, you can just nab it from there.
right.
So if you
Valid.
click, I think it's the under trigger values, you see a little arrow, it says more. You can see the available values there. And then if that's something you want to work with, you can just hit the create trigger button, and it'll automatically import all of those values into the trigger.
There you go. So discussing exactly what I just said, if they come up with a creative way of saying the bad word, it's all right there. You just click a couple of buttons and create a new trigger or add it to an existing trigger. You're done. Super easy.
Yeah, after like the 50th round, they're going to run out of ways to spell that word.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even if you reduce it 95, 98, 99, whatever percent, it's still that much cleaner of a server than it would have been without. So it's not about always 100% eliminating, though that's the goal. At least you're still cleaning house.
Right. So, Axe DM. Can we replace the N word that a player wrote into another funny word like I forced him to write? You can. That functionality is already built into a plugin. I don't think BattleMetrics would be able to change what a player has already put on in chat.
No, there's no command for
No.
that.
Right.
You'd have to use a plugin because it has to happen before the message is sent to the server.
Right.
BattleMetrics can only act on it when it's sent to RCON, at which point it's already been seen.
Right. So, Axe, to answer your question, that plugin is Better Chat Filter. I just happen to know that off the top of my head.
Yep. It's a good one.
It is a good one. It's hilarious. The things that you can come up with. Oh, it's funny.
Although
Yeah,
be
I think,
warned,
is it the default still like unicorn or something like
Yes.
that? I
And
thought
people
so.
get so mad, and then they try and say they express their anger in chat, and then it just keeps happening and happening and happening. It's so
Yeah.
funny. So funny.
although I think be warned, I saw that there were some issues with Better Chat and hardcore servers. I think it's causing some issues, so watch out.
I haven't explored
I wouldn't know why you
hardcore
would
mode
use
yet.
Better Chat in hardcore because they disable global chat unless you're
think-
trying to go like a modded route.
Yeah, I think the problem
Yeah,
is that it was
fair.
actually re-enabling global chat was the issue. So watch out for anyone
Oh.
using that.
That's fair. Let me just get caught up here in chat. Player tracking via API tools is a nightmare.
I don't see the question.
Yeah, it's not really a question.
We have Jeopardy rules on this stream, I think.
Player tracking via API and tools is a nightmare.
I would say that my response to that would be BattleMetrics is doing all the heavy lifting for you. So it might be a nightmare, but Hordicus and his team have already done the heavy lifting.
I will say, if you're not like, the API was not built for anyone but us. We allowed people to use it, but the website runs on the API. So when you think about, oh, the API is hard to use, keep in mind, like, we did this for ourselves. We made it the way that we needed it. We used the endpoints and the information that we need to display the information that you see. Generally, if you can do it on the website, you can do it in the API. It's just a question of kind of knowing what you're looking for. If you're not a programmer, the API is probably not something that you should be messing with. You want to have a developer look at that who can work with HTTP requests and format them properly.
That's
All
fair.
of the documentation for that is posted in our API channel in our Discord, and there's lots of helpful people there that answer questions.
Well, so that being said, let's plug your Discord. If people want to know what the BattleMetrics Discord is, how do they get there?
Sure, let me get you a link.
Mino, I didn't even know this was going on. Needed the @everyone ping. It was. It went out earlier today, and I apologize that you didn't get. No, I was going to send you a carrier pigeon, and I forgot. So my apologies.
Oh no, that's not what you told me earlier. You said it was intentional.
Yeah, we don't want anyone seeing this stream. It's trade
No.
secrets.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
I sent you the link in DM.
Thank you. You got it. So if anybody wants to join the BattleMetrics Discord, I put the link in chat there. You guys can join that up. There's tons of people in there that can answer any questions that you might come across. Hi.
Another trigger that I'll go over. I don't know. Did I include it in the pack? Okay, I did. It's actually a more recent one. So at the very bottom, I did another trigger that basically looks for anytime you add .mp4 or like a TikTok or YouTube URL, it'll automatically save that message and spit to Discord. So that way you can have all the clips from your server chat logged as well. And in case somebody spams the URL, it also has a rate limit, so it'll only do it once every few minutes. But it can be a really good way to get clips from your server in case they happen to have any funny moments or something that they've happened to paste. But just bear in mind it may be something toxic or
Yeah, it absolutely
the usual
could be.
usual Rust stuff. But
Yeah, there's
I've had a
definitely an
couple funny
opportunity
moments
there
over
to
the
be.
last couple months.
Like, how many times have you been rickrolled?
Oh yeah, the Rickroll, the very colorful language videos.
Yeah, for sure. This is another one that we briefly talked about the other night. Is the GeForce Now. I actually really like this. Now let's just make sure.
Yeah, and this was made by Lurk. I don't know if you've ever met Lurk, but he's a very active admin in the community. He is one, I believe, the head admin, or maybe part ownership. I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me, but he works with the Vital Rust servers.
Okay.
Which they're
Lurk is good people.
They're up there. Yeah, Lurk is good people.
So basically what this trigger is doing is anybody that tries to join your server using GeForce Now, it automatically kicks them out, saying, no thanks. If you want to play the game, you need to play the game and not pretend to play the game.
Or
Yeah.
maybe you should buy the game.
Yeah,
More
you should
importantly.
pay.
On a machine that like you're on currently, not the one that you're streaming from.
Right.
Yeah, and of course you could change that if you didn't want to kick them. You could just have it alert you.
Of course.
And you could even combine this with any other option. So like let's say if they're on GeForce Now and they have a VAC ban and it's their first time connecting, ping the admins on Discord or ban them. So there's all sorts of stackable variables that you can do. It's crazy. These are all singular excerpts, but you can consolidate it into one and make a pretty killer trigger.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely could.
Someone asked a good question. Can we whitelist people we know that use GeForce Now and only allow them? There are two ways to do this. One, you can use trigger exemptions,
Flag.
and two, you can build their identifiers into the trigger itself. We can show you how to do this if you like. I don't know if you want to pull up the trigger screen, like if you want to open that trigger specifically from the pack.
Oh, I see.
I think if you click the get here, it should have the share link. Yeah. So copy that. There we go. Yeah. And then choose your organization. Okay, so there's two ways to do this. There should be a trigger exemption, I think, available when it actually operates on the player. Is it on the bottom? Do we have a link there? All the way down? No, we don't. Okay, so the exemption is available to you when a trigger acts on a player. So if it kicks them or does whatever it's supposed to do, you can click the add exemption button next to the message where it says the trigger did X to a player.
So you would need to let it happen one time.
Yeah, so that's the exemption method. That's method one.
Okay.
Maybe the better method, if you want to keep track of these things, is to add the IP or the Steam ID or whatever you're using to identify the player to the conditions. And so what you would do is add a condition that says, well, I guess first you'd want to create an OR block because you're going to have a lot of these.
Okay.
Or I guess, yeah, I would add an.
You could even stream it and probably show us as well, maybe.
Yeah, let me see if I can set this up. Give me a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
I know Bull's a wizard at this stuff, so like, don't want to take the throne, but
No, not at all.
figured the man that made it maybe a good way.
Let's see if we can.
Because I've learned a couple things already as well. I didn't know that you could issue a command at top of where it lists all your servers. I never knew about the one where you could issue one to all.
Well, and isn't that interesting? Because
You've been missing out.
You've been sitting that you've seen that
right
bar
there.
there. Yeah, like how do you miss that, right? Yeah.
There's just so much. That just shows how
so
much feature pack this tool is.
The part that blows my mind is that Hordicus has all of this stuff right there at the top of his head, and he can think about it every single time. But like the other night when we were just in the call, just the two of us, he was blowing my mind with all of these different things that we can do that I had no idea was there. Like, I feel silly actually, because so that puts me at 7 years I've been using BattleMetrics, and in the last 3 months I've actually been starting to use it the way it's meant to be used. All right, so I will take mine off.
Okay, I think this is my screen now, right? Or I'm seeing yours on stream still, I think.
There we go. That's
okay.
it.
All right, so if you wanted to create exemptions, you would basically create like an OR block here as a subset of the main trigger, and then you just say something like Steam ID is not, set whatever, you enter the Steam ID, and then for every single new person that you want to exempt, you just add a new Steam ID. Although now that I'm thinking about this, you probably actually want this just to be nested in the main AND block. So you can either ditch this and just do it straight in the trigger.
Something like this is actually what I do. I have a staff connecting log. So anytime a staff member connects to my server, it just spits out into a channel on Discord, and it also counts as well. So how many times they've connected within the last 30 days. it does something very similar to this, and the fact that it looks for if it's only these Steam IDs, and I just manually put the staff member Steam IDs in that.
So it allows you to keep track of your staff actually doing their job.
Yeah, just make sure like activity levels are up. Like if there's somebody that hasn't connected at all or a very low amount of times, it helps out.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
The other thing I'll note about this trigger in particular and what might need to be changed is you might want to drop the player join event from this trigger. The reason I say that is because on player join, we don't necessarily have the full IP information available to us. So if you're trying to detect whether it's a VPN or something else is going on, you want player update. You want to wait for that information to come in. The update shouldn't take long. It takes maybe 15 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, but you'll get them pretty quickly. Player
Gotcha.
join is only going to have cached information in what is immediately available when the player joins.
So are you
That's good
saying
to
that
know.
because you have both on there, so player join and player update, is that essentially two reporting points?
Yeah, so there's two reporting points in case it changes
Okay.
while they're in server, but I think it's probably redundant. You can probably drop the player join.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So for those of you that are using this, you can probably just scrub that out and be fine.
So as a result of that, it might delay, like you said, like 10 to 15 seconds or whatever before the actual update happens, and then it will execute that whatever event you've created.
Correct. As soon as we get the update, that's when the trigger will fire.
Right.
Which again, typically is going to be immediate, but sometimes
Not
like if you're
always.
using Steam, if you're going to use Steam information like VAC bans, you need to wait for the player update. The Steam queries happen in batches because we don't want to overload the Steam API and get them angry with us. So we'll do those 100 at a time. And so
Right.
that can, we have a lot of people using RCON, so that doesn't take that
Absolutely.
long, but it still has a small delay.
Sure. That makes sense. Gramsci's Life says, geez, you people are so smart. So much to learn. You know what? I've been doing this since 2014 or 15, somewhere in there. And I've been teaching it since 2018. And I still, to this day, I learn something new just about every time I get involved with something like this, because there's no way that one person can know everything. You can have some ideas for a lot of things, but there's no way I would ever have as much information as Hordicus has at the top of his head.
It's okay.
Well, that's the good thing
my wife
about
says
a
the same thing, so it's all good.
community-driven. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying my wife says the same thing, so we're all good.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, so just to on top of what Lone said, like that's why I built this community, so that I could bring in people like Hordicus and Lone and Death and all of these people together, and I don't have to know everything. I can reach out to them and say, hey, can you explain this to these people better than I can? And 100%
And
of
that
the
says a
time,
lot
they
because
always can.
you've covered more plugins than most people have ever even installed. So like
True.
you would know more about a plugin than I ever would. I've never messed with a majority of the plugins, and I've messed with a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it's
But on the flip side
bringing
of
all of
that,
these minds together and utilizing it in a bigger way is where the benefit is.
you probably know Rust edit better than I know any plugin.
Yeah.
So
And that's how we
that's
can
what it's
bounce
all
off of
about.
each other and learn.
Exactly. Keep that under your hat a little bit, because damn, there's some hungry people out there trying to learn Rust edit. Hungry.
Yeah.
And I would say
Thirsty.
that sharing is caring in this instance. Lone has done a really good thing with organizing a bunch of useful triggers into his trigger pack, but that's not the limitation of what you can get. There's a lot of communities out there that have made some really cool stuff. Some of them are game specific and some of them aren't. We do have some trigger examples listed, I think, both in our Discord and on our knowledge base. But you want to make sure you're developing a community with other server admins, because they're going to have stuff that you don't. And it's a really great resource to connect with other people, because when you work with other server admins, you're just going to make the whole game stronger. It's not going to be a competitive disadvantage to you, I promise.
That's
Yeah,
true. But just
where
know
it's
that
at.
there are situations out there where, especially with larger servers, they might not want to give all of their trade secrets, and they're fully within their rights to do that. So don't get upset when people aren't willing to share something. It's just the nature of the
Absolutely.
beast. Amino is actually a really great example of that. I keep harassing him about his, top secrets, and Like I've known Amino a long time, and he still won't share those with me. Probably because he's afraid that I'm going to broadcast it on YouTube. So that's definitely fair.
Oh, that'll make for a good video. Let's do it.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. There's actually, I have a really great example of that I've kept really close to the chest, because the person that showed it to me said, I really don't want you to show this to the community, but it's like, oh my God, it's so good. I want to show it to everybody, but I haven't yet, and I may never. I don't know. We'll see.
I will say this about Rust, though. Rust has one of the most unique admin communities I've seen in any game. From someone who sits, looking on high from all these other different games, there is no community that cooperates as closely as Rust admins do. It's a wonderful community. So if you're not involved in the Rust admins Discord, you really should be. There's good stuff that gets posted there, and people are generally helpful.
That's a really good point. And seeing as how you bring it up, I'm going to grab a link for that, because it is a valuable tool, and even I don't use it to its fullest. I have a bit of animosity there, because they chose RAC over Rust Admin Academy, but that's all right. Where is their invite link?
I just got RAC's invite link. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I mean, if you really want to, you could join 6 or 7 different admin Discords. They're all mostly the same people. I would say, if anything, you bring in a lot more organic new users than some of these other ones do.
I think
just
so,
because
too.
your outreach is a bit different than everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. So that Discord that I put in the chat there is the only. It's shitty that I have to promote it like this, but I will. It's the only face punch. What's the word I'm looking for?
Sanctioned sponsored.
Sanctioned. Yeah, let's go with sanctioned. I like that. It's the only face punch sanctioned Discord out there. At the time, I wanted it to be Rust Admin Academy. Unfortunately, they just beat me to it, and they got it, and I didn't. So that's okay. But a very good Discord. There's a ton of people in there. You're going to see a lot of names in the community that you probably recognize, and then they're right there at your fingertips. So
I do have one question for you, Hordicus, and I'm sure you may have been asked this before. As somebody who's never used, I've used Rust Admin, the tool, the service, back whenever it was an executable file, and it was like a very basic RCON tool. How does BattleMetrics compare to the other Rust Admin tool available? I want to say it's called rustadmin.com,
Yeah,
right?
it's Rust
it is,
admin.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I can't speak with 100% authenticity on this. One, I'm biased as hell. Two, I've never run a Rust server. Like we're not a game server host anymore. What the games we ran were Arma 2 and Arma 3. I have seen Rust admin through trial and error, and using it as a debugging tool to make sure that it's not, if something's not working, that it's not us. But Rust admin, I think it depends on what you're looking at. The desktop tool we are going to blow out of the water, because the desktop tool doesn't have the kind of centralized lookups. It doesn't have triggers. It doesn't have any of these features that we're talking about. It does do a lot, and I will say, to Rust admin's credit, is probably one of the better RCON tools out there as far as desktop clients. But it's not close, though, in terms of functionality as far as what we can do. Rust admin does have some stuff that we don't have. I think they have like a map teleportation interaction. I think they have like a kits list. I think they have like a heat map or something on their, dashboard. But we made the decision that those things were probably not that important to server admins, and I think the market has sort of borne us out on that. That what's really important is automating rule enforcement. That it's making the admin's job easier, and not just flair or things that look good, but you don't actually use that often.
Right.
So for us,
That's a good point.
it was basically trying to reduce the clutter. It's a very complicated system as it is. You've seen how much time we've spent just talking about triggers, and that's just one system.
Yeah.
And there's other systems. So
schedules.
Yeah, so
that's another really handy one.
So I don't know how fair the comparison is, but I know Rust admin has an online service that tries to be more similar to us, but I think they still lack a lot of our features. They don't have anything like triggers, and triggers are where that's the bread and butter.
I agree.
Okay, that's good to know. I haven't used Rust admin in since probably 2018, 2017, and that was back when it was just a very primitive RCON client. You could
They
see
didn't
like the
have a
player
premium
list.
version back then.
No, it was all free. It was just a
Yeah.
free executable file.
Yeah.
And it did the job. It was the only thing available to my knowledge. There may have been something else, but since finding BattleMetrics and being with it for a while, I'm probably biased as well. I'm sure there are features in the other tool, but I can't recommend BattleMetrics enough. I mean, that's why I helped get you guys together and get this going, because it's just a cool service.
Yeah, exactly. Loan was definitely the driving force between just to get me able to meet Hordicus and for us to put this this stream together. So this is all Loan. I just happen to be the guy that has the controls.
Let's turn my webcam on, dude. You're the one handling all the screens and
that's fair.
and all that.
Everyone's here like, I don't know, I just work here.
Yeah, I just clean here. I don't know what you're talking about.
I've been a member of the Rust admin group for a while now. They've been able to utilize the connections to have custom plugins made for me. Shout out to Shady One for You. Shady One for You.
He is a G.
He is, and he's like an up and comer. I'm excited. He's also in my Discord, so you didn't need to go to that Discord to get access to Shady, because Shady's in mine.
Shady's everywhere.
In fact, Shady is usually in my voice chat. So if you want to talk to the guy, kind of doxing him a little bit, but if you want to talk directly to Shady, that's where you can find him, is in my Discord, not the other one.
I've never not seen him in your voice chat. Now that
I know,
you mentioned
he's
that, he
always in there.
is.
Yeah.
It just so happens that right now he's not in there, but normally he is. Yeah.
What? You have another person in there just vibing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just chilling. Just chilling.
There's almost always people in your voice chats, though. That's a good plus to your community versus most other Discord communities. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of people that chill in voice chats much anymore.
Yeah, the downside is I don't get to spend nearly as much time in there as I want to. I just always seem to be doing something else. But yeah, it is great to see that there's usually somebody in there.
Yeah, I saw a comment posted by Barrow. He said Rust admin is great for at-a-glance information and quick actions. I'd be curious to what at-a-glance information you're looking for, and also what quick actions you're looking to take, because they might be something that you can do through our system, and I can probably point you in the right direction if it is. I guess one thing I know, Lone, you mentioned scheduler. I think a lot of people don't know that we have a scheduler. I'm just going to quickly on my screen navigate to it. Next to triggers, you guys will see a little clock icon here. This is for schedulers. And so a scheduler is like a trigger, but it operates at certain intervals and times. So if you want to like have a recurring event or a recurring message, if you want to, automatically restart the server, assuming the game has a restart command that's supported, you can use a schedule to do it. You can also, I think you have to issue the right CFG command before any of your settings will save, like for mutes. You can automate that to happen every 15 minutes or happen, right before, a minute before the restart.
Right.
So there's all sorts of stuff you can do. Schedules, they're very much like triggers. You can just create them basically from scratch and add, whatever you want. So, I can just say
I use one to spawn a heli on my server. We don't use the native helicopter, and we have different time frames from a normal procedural server. And we use this to issue, I believe, every 3 hours or every 4 hours to spawn one in. It's never failed. I said it and forgot about it, honestly.
And because we're directing this to what plugins we can get rid of and use BattleMetrics instead, time to execute, you don't need time to execute. All you have to do is set up these scheduled timers to happen, and then you can get rid of another plugin.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I was able to purge a handful of plugins, actually. I believe like auto broadcast. I know there's a couple others I purged whenever I did BattleMetrics triggers.
Tons. Yeah, there'd be tons.
Yeah.
Just 1 second here. Safe, thank you so much for that. I think that's a United Emirates. I'm sorry, I don't know, but thanks for the 10, whatever that is. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The 10 currency.
The 10 currency, yes.
It's just Monopoly, the dollars.
It's just fake internet money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Always good to sports channel.
Somebody asked if there's a desktop client or a Windows client planned for the website. I think that's the friendly chap. Not right I don't think so. Mostly because you can't really centralize it, and then we've got to trust the data coming from the desktop client, and that invites a security vulnerability for us. Whereas, to the extent that you're interacting with the website, you're not basically providing us with like bogus RCON information. We know it's coming directly through the server. So
Plus, I'd be curious to know why you would want a Windows client when it's browser-based anyways. So I'd be curious to know why you would want that anyways.
could be a resources thing. I think back in yonder years, we had some people that were basically maxing out their browser memory, leaving the website open. But I think that those issues are gone for the most part.
Fair
I'm
enough.
cough cough Chrome. I'm definitely a big fan of Firefox. We tend not to have those problems there.
I've never switched away from Chrome. I can't do it. I don't know. It's just I downloaded it like 2011 and then never looked anywhere else since.
I'm in the same boat as you. I have Firefox and I have Brave. They're just not my defaults. I don't know why.
Yep.
I try.
Well, get ready
and
for change. The Google Chrome is going to be disabling ad blockers soon, so you're going to want to find a new home.
Well, there you go. That does it for me right there.
Yeah, I might have to switch now.
Yeah.
I've relied on extensions for every one of those 10 years.
And the downside is Brave was going to be the next up and comer, I think, anyways. And now they've kind of fallen into that same rut as Chrome, and the same things that don't work on Chrome now don't work on Brave either. So I'm going to end up going to Firefox and just dive right in. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off with your schedules. I felt like maybe we didn't finish with that.
No, schedules are kind of complicated. You got to be. One thing I will say is be careful with schedules. It's easy to mess these up. The more specific you can be with a schedule, the better. So, like, instead of just saying on hour 1, I'm going to tell it on minute 0, and I'm going to also rate limit to only once per hour. Like these schedules. There's a joke in programming that a computer only does what you tell it to do, nothing more, nothing less. And so with schedules, it's kind of the same way. If you tell it on hour 1, you have to be sure that it's not going to run every single minute of every, in that hour. So you have to be careful. So if you're creating a schedule, make sure you definitely look at the next 5 occurrences preview, which will tell you, a forecast of how this is going to run. But otherwise, it's just like triggers. You just decide, what you want to do, what conditions you want to have set for the schedules. I will say the condition set is more limited on schedules because we're assuming that we only have the server information available, because this is not acting directly on a player most of the time. It's just acting on the server as a whole. And
so you just showed something there on screen. Actually, go back into that drop-down menu that you were just in.
This is the condition list, yeah.
Scroll down a little bit. I think I saw server description in there.
Yeah, right here.
So what we can do with this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is you could be able to set your server description for wipe day and then have it change automatically to something else after the first 24 or 48 hours. Is that not correct?
So this is a condition. That's not an action.
So you could still do it with a raw command followed by server.description space and then what you wanted to say.
Gotcha.
I think it's server.description. Don't quote me.
It is. Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, that's possible, but the condition itself doesn't change anything. You have to do that as a separate raw command.
So we're still setting this up as a schedule. So I could do exactly that, right? For the first 24 or 48 hours. And then after that, it automatically changes to another description. Is that correct?
Sure. So I could do, I guess it would probably be it would be the first Saturday of the month, because force wipe is always, on Thursdays. And you could say on hours, hour whatever, let's say 2 on minute 0. And you could say, all right, September 3rd is the next event, then a week. Well, I guess this is day of the week. I need on week of month. You can tell how often I interact with schedules.
Yeah, but no, this is good that you're doing this, because we can see the different options.
So then I would say, okay, on Saturday, the first week of every month, on hour 2, on minute 0, it's going to execute this trigger. Now, if I wanted to change that to 2 p.m., I'd change that to hour 14. And boom, now we've got it set for the next 5 occurrences are September 3rd, October 1st, November 5th, December 3rd, and January 7th.
Genius.
So you can set this up however you want. You just got to be careful.
And then so scroll down so that we can see the actual, where would we tell it, where would we put the information? So the command line down below, we would do server.description, and then you would put in whatever you want to change it to when this trigger or when this schedule happens.
Correct.
And you would still want to follow your same syntaxes and all that stuff. So your /n and all that stuff, you would want to put that in there too.
Yeah, however you would do it.
Keep your formatting.
Yeah, it's the same as if you were doing it in console and game, I think.
Right.
So follow that format.
Gotcha.
One thing I actually do is a wipe reminder for this. So a day prior to wipe, or even a few hours prior to wipe is what I actually do, is remind people in like my wipe feed channel on Discord that server wipes today at, and then you can actually insert epoch time, which will display your localized time zone, which is pretty helpful. I'll send you a screenshot for an example.
Sure.
And this is just via webhooks, so you can create it on the day of wipe, but an hour prior, send this message out.
Yeah, and feel free to take the screen back over. I was just showing a couple examples.
I can put you back right away. So this is what what Lone's talking about right there. So he's automatically sending out a wipe reminder that a wipe is coming up at X amount of, or at X time. And you're saying that you can make that local to the viewer that is seeing it. So that will change depending on where in the world you are.
Exactly. So I know my 2 p.m. is different than your 2 p.m. So if you were in my Discord, you would see my wipe time that's in your time zone.
Gotcha.
So, and that's called epoch time. I recommend everybody to check that out as well. You can utilize that with Discord, and it helps out your everything.
You can use epoch time in Discord?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep.
There you go.
Let me, I'll show you an example.
Sure.
There,
Hordicus, you have the screen back again.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what else to show. If anybody has requests, I can do that.
Before we leave, I definitely want to get into permissions, because it's important for people to understand that maybe you don't necessarily want to give everyone full access to everything. So we can get into permissions if you'd like.
Yeah, I think you'll probably want to take the screen back for that, though. I have too many.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Let me just get caught up on chat here. Amino's chirping again. Oh, he's triggering. All right, I gotcha. Here's one. Does BattleMetrics have Discord notification system like send F7 report to Discord channel? Absolutely, it does, as long as you create it to do that. So you'd be setting up a trigger with a webhook that sends the information to your Discord. And if we look back at the trigger pack, I think that was in here, right? F7.
Yeah, it's a popular one. I don't know if it's in there, but it's in your server. It's on Lone's organization for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I included all triggers that weren't already published elsewhere in this list, and I think Hordicus may have one pinned.
Yeah, I think we've got a Rust F7 report one in our list of example triggers.
So gotcha.
I can get the link for that one sec.
Sure. Oh, I like that. See, I just learned something. I learned that you can use epoch time in Discord. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and everybody, for instance, that uses like Discord bots, you can set a description. Send you a picture on Discord. And you don't have to broadcast this as any sort of advertisement, but like for instance, you can include that epoch time in your bot description. So where it says there are 50 out of 60 players on your server, and you click on that bot itself, you can have a description that says about me, and that's where you can include all the information, including epoch time.
That's genius.
Yeah, essentially a link to the trigger examples, although it looks like we don't have the Rust F7 report one in there. So Lone, I think that'd be a good candidate to add to your pack.
Yeah, true. I may add that one.
I mean, I'll add it too, but it just should be everywhere. It's a really useful one.
Yeah, no doubt.
Need to be able to see what I'm seeing. Jesus, I got stuff going on. Having 3 monitors is great and a curse at the same time.
You could even control and then scroll wheel to zoom in a little bit as well. I don't know if that makes it a little easier for text on stream.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so this is just like Loans Packet. It has a trigger link that sort of gives you a description of what it is. You copy the link over and open it, and you can start editing the trigger from there. Loan, his pack is nice because he's got all the images and the descriptions there. It's very fancy. I'm working within the framework that we've got. We should probably do something better long term.
I was about to say, maybe I can visit this page for you and add some of the ones on there so it's all in one place.
Pretty it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you know that the most searched item on Edge are on new computers for Chrome download? That actually makes sense because literally everybody uses Chrome or has at some point in their career.
This guy says, I use BattleMetrics to see if my enemies are online.
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up.
You could technically do that as a player, couldn't you? If you,
it's
well, that's
Go ahead. It is something you can do, yes. So I mean,
how much I play.
Ultimately, I will say the player log feature premiered when we were playing a lot of Ark Survival Evolved. So this is, I think, something that's unique to survival games where, you've got all these resources, you don't want to lose them, you want to take the lowest risk raids possible. And so knowing when people get on and offline is useful for that purpose. And so people use it for that. But I think that the system offers a lot more than that. I think for your average player, that might be their primary use case. But I think the same could probably be said about knowing when a server is coming on or offline. If it's been down for a while, you can set an alert to notify you when it's back up. You can do all that stuff. So I think there's more uses than just that, but yeah.
Just for clarification on that, is that available on the free to everybody BattleMetrics, or is that going to be? Oh, it is.
Yes. So you don't need to pay to get that functionality.
Interesting.
Alerts are available to everyone, but you only get so many emails a month. And only so many features. The more in-depth features are available to paid subscribers only, including SMS messages. That starts at premium and up. But ultimately, if all you're trying to do is set an alert on when someone gets on or offline, that is not a paid feature. That's something anyone can do.
Interesting. So, read the undertones there, everybody. Is Hordicus the owner?
I'm the co-owner. Yes.
Co-owner. There you go.
I didn't actually know you were a co-owner. Who's the co?
The silent partner. My partner is the programmer, the head programmer. So he's the real brains behind the operation.
There you go. You just get to be the pretty face.
You just clean here.
The pretty face, the customer support, and general counsel. You can't forget about general counsel.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't find anything on the
Oh, shut up, Siri. Jesus.
My phone is when the Google just goes from like seemingly nothing. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I have Alexa, and now she's going to respond to that over there. Yeah, idiots. Stupid automation. The road to Dome at night is beautiful on my map. Okay, congratulations.
That was a good story.
Yeah. Player profile merging is still an issue.
Yeah, that's something we're going to be addressing. Right now, we're trying to finish with a project that's taken a lot of time right now. But after that, we want to get to resolving the player profile issue. What we're going to do is to change it so that only RCON profiles are associated with RCON profiles, and non-RCON profiles don't get put into the RCON profiles at all. So you'll have basically 2 classifications of profile, the RCON and everything else. And so as a server owner, when you're looking through profiles, if you're doing it through the RCON view, you should only see stuff that's actually verified. The reason that we haven't done that already is we've got to backfill all the data as much as we can, going back to when we started logging that, which was 2018. And that's going to take us some doing. So it's complicated, I promise.
That's a new feature coming to BattleMetrics. Are there any new features that you have worked on that's maybe in the wraps or?
Gallium is the next thing that's coming, but I don't want to say too much on that since it's still in development. But there are
So
new anti-cheat
look
tools
forward
that
to
are
that.
coming.
Safe is
Cliffhanger.
asking, what about mute and ban? Absolutely, you have those functionalities in triggers. Absolutely. They're all right there. Very easy to access. Everyone knows and uses BattleMetrics. That is true. Everyone knows about BattleMetrics, but I don't know that everyone utilizes BattleMetrics to its fullest potential.
Yeah,
which is why
all
we're
the
doing
tools
this
within
stream.
it too. It's a very big umbrella.
It is. It's huge.
yeah. So I guess
There's a lot of
what other
tools.
systems should we go over? So for those people that want to learn more.
So I did want to talk about permissions a little bit. And I don't think, because I probably won't be able to view my own permissions there, and I won't have a good example here. Let me see.
You can do it based on your organization. It's just empty. But you can
Yeah,
go
I
into
can
create roles.
Create one.
True. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, there you go.
So the main idea with roles is that you can create preset groups of permissions for your different subadmins. We prompt you to do this when you set up an RCON server, so hopefully this doesn't look too foreign. There's a lot of options. So you got to be careful with what you select and what you don't select. The coolest thing with permissions, though, is that you can use triggers to supplement them. So let's say you don't want your subadmins to see a certain kind of message. You can use triggers to tag the message type, and that tagged message will then be an option in the roles and permissions options, and you can deny it for certain roles. So if you've got messages that contain a player IP, you can completely block subadmins from seeing that
Right.
message
That's pretty
type
cool.
as a whole. The other thing you can do in what you're scrolling over right now is you can revoke the permission to see player IPs at all. And that's what we've done for the Bull on Lone Server. And it will scramble the IP into something that's not reversible. So you can expand your pool of admins to people that maybe you don't even trust.
So that what he's referring to right here is this list underneath the address bar. Those are IP addresses, but because I had that permission revoked from me for this video, they're not actually showing up as IP addresses.
Yeah. One thing I will say about that is you'll notice that about halfway down, you still have an alert for a player that has multiple IPs associated with their profile. So even though you can't see the IP, we're still telling you this player has been seen on more than one. Like this IP is in common with some other player. And if you click that little yellow or orangish icon, it'll take you to a search page to show you which players match.
Should I do that now?
Yeah, go ahead. It should be fine.
Okay.
And so, hopefully that'll give you some indication that there is some other player in common. In this case, it's Leon Logistician.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so both of those players have played on the same IP at some point.
Correct.
Siblings,
so even though you can't,
somebody in the same network.
Right.
It
So
could
even though your
even-
subadmins can't see the underlying IP, they get to get the useful information that this is an alt.
Right.
Does this exclude the VPN and proxies at all, or?
No, VPNs will be in the same thing. So if they use the VPN,
Okay,
we'll
gotcha.
still flag them as an alt.
Gotcha. It's still a good indicator to know what direction to look at whenever you're looking at your player list. You can prioritize, oh, hey, that one has an association. Let's check that one out first before we go and look at these fresh users.
Right.
Right. But you can see that Lone has his organization set up basically where there's some admins that have read-only access. There's some that are set up as band handlers. There's some that have full admin permissions. And there's the owner is always going to have full permissions. So if you're the server owner and you don't have any staff, don't even worry about permissions because you've already got them all.
Right.
But for every new person you add in, you can customize how much access they have to the organization.
So the direct comparison that I'd like everyone to understand here is the permission system that you see on BattleMetrics is not unlike what is already happening in your Rust server. So you can define certain groups of people that have certain permissions or accesses similar to your Discord, and these all are following the same processes. So like when you're setting up staff or moderators or whatever you want to call them in your community, you can define what they can have access to and the functionalities that they can perform on your BattleMetrics dashboard, or on their BattleMetrics dashboard, I should say.
Yeah. And one thing you'll see on there is you can see a button called command usage. And that allows you to basically do a review of commands that are issued by a certain BattleMetrics user. So if you have staff that you might suspect are abusing their power or running unauthorized commands, you can use that to search through the activity log to see what they were running. And that also includes API keys. So if they're running it through an API key, it'll still show up. So you could do that for every user in your organization. There's something else that we offer called audit logs if you're a server owner, where not just what commands you ran, but also everything that your subadmins looked at. So if you have an issue where someone is leaking data, they're looking at stuff that they're not supposed to be, they're trying to siphon information out of your organization and send it other places, you can track that down. The only
That's
caveat to
cool.
that, is that the audit logs are only 3 days for regular users because they're so big. Enterprise users, that's our highest tier, they get 30 days. So you have to act fast if you suspect that there's something going on.
Gotcha.
That's neat. I didn't know about that. Looks
How
like there's
would
a
you
good question from Yelnats.
How would you? Oh, did I miss Yelnats? Okay, so let's do Peachy Viking first. How would you set up triggers to auto detect spin botters?
You actually may be able to soon, but
Yeah.
currently I don't think that's an option.
Okay.
You'd have to have a layer of anti-cheat.
You'd have
would
to
have
have
to be in
something that
place.
is detecting the spin botter and then reporting something to your RCON console that BattleMetrics could trigger upon.
I think that might end up being a Galleon feature, so stay tuned.
Okay. You weren't supposed to say
Soon,
anything
trademark.
about Galleon.
I don't want to say too much, but it might be something that's possible in the very near future.
Funny, this is the stuff that Komomo refuses to tell viewers about. That's true.
Not necessarily.
No,
not
I-
entirely.
I know
Komomo's
what
doing
this-
more, so there.
I know what this commenter is saying, and I will follow that up with there's a reason why I don't cover anti-cheat plugins or anything that has to do with cheating on my YouTube channel, because I don't want anybody to know how the internal workings of stuff like that works. BattleMetrics doesn't fall into that category, mainly because everyone has access to this. This isn't something that they need to buy, and it's not a cheat. It's nothing like that, but everyone would have access to this information.
Yeah, and I'll also say that there's nothing secret about how the system works. Like anyone
Right.
with an RCON subscription can log in, set up a server, and see how everything interacts. It's kind of like any skilled trade. Like you can have all the tools in your toolbox, but if you don't know how to use them right, then what good are you as an
True.
admin? So a lot of what Komomo doesn't want to show people is how he's how he's assessing the data that we give him, not
Yeah.
necessarily that we're giving him the data.
Exactly. In Rust admin, I always check to see if players are banned. I have never seen a banned player in my servers. How is that logged in your system?
Well, it depends on what you mean by banned. So Rust admin has its own ban system, and they kind of, they probably are explicitly violating GDPR by doing it, by sharing bans automatically across all of their clients, right? So they have this Rust admin bans category that everyone is opted into. And it actually got them in some trouble earlier this year when they had a giant data leak because someone was able to basically punch in a Steam ID for a banned or for I think it was any user actually, and they were getting IPs for every single person that had ever connected to anyone using Rust admin.
Oh, wow.
It was a massive
That was a
massive
big
problem.
one.
I think it was like 300,000 IPs were leaked.
Wow.
And stored by someone else. So if that's what you're referring to, the reason we don't have that is because we don't have the Rust admin ban database synced in. That being said, if you wanted to do that, you could. You just need to use the API. The BattleMetrics API, if you're a programmer, you can use it to import information onto a player's profile. You can issue bans that are on someone else's ban list. You can, you can do whatever you want with it, but it gets kind of complicated.
That brings a good point to. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you're done.
I was gonna say if what he's referring to is VAC bans, we do display those. VAC bans and game bans.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings a good point to what Bull said earlier. When communities can kind of work together and help each other out, you can coordinate your battle metrics and share your organization data per permission as well. So if you wanted to just share a ban list with another organization to have a larger database to sift through, you can do that.
Yeah,
At
we
which
have
you can also limit too with like the IP addresses and stuff, so that way you don't give everything while also still sharing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so we have two different forms of sharing. You've got band sharing and you've got data sharing. Data sharing, I don't think you'll have access to Bull except through your own organization.
Right.
What Lone is talking about is called data sharing, and it's right up the top. It's that button, top right corner. And you can basically mark yourself as discoverable, and you can basically send invites to other organizations and to share your data with them, and then they can reciprocate back and share their data with you. A lot of people only do this for communities they trust, but some people are more open. And with a larger pool of data, you can get a better sense of alt detection and when people are trying to evade or change their identities. That's very powerful on a large scale, but I strongly recommend that you only share information that is not sensitive and with people that you trust.
Of course.
The other kind of sharing that we offer is ban sharing. You can create a ban list, say a list of banned cheaters or whatever, and you can share that with as many communities as you want. But that will share all of the identifiers in the list. So again, share it with people you trust and not with anyone else.
Right.
So there's options there as far as getting your opted into other people's ban lists and sharing your own, so that you can get a wider coverage.
This is an interesting one, not necessarily related to BattleMetrics. Internal workings are one thing, but a video on how to spot wall hacks and aimbots would be good. And I don't disagree with you, but again, it falls into the same category because I don't want cheaters knowing what we're looking for. So even when I'm following a player around in Vanish or in spectate mode, whatever, I don't want them knowing what I look for. So I understand what you're saying. Just understand that I've put a lot of thought into why I don't share that information on my channel. There are others that do. I just won't here.
Yeah, and the
But
friendly
kind of
chat.
the same reason EAC won't give the information they catch on players. Like you will
Sure.
never get any information from FacePunch or EAC about why you were banned.
No.
What I would recommend is join the Rust communities, the Discord that was linked earlier. Demonstrate that you're a trustworthy member of the community, and someone will probably show you themselves. But I doubt you're going to find a publicly posted video.
Or go work. Go actually work. Like join the organization and work for them.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
once you can be another set of eyes for them, then they're definitely going to want to teach you the tools or the things that they look for to help you be successful with that.
That's true. Some of the admins I even have run their own servers, and I can only hope I showed them a couple things that maybe they didn't know about their own community, and maybe it'll benefit them growing their own server. Because at the end of the day, sure, we're all competing, but we're all working together to build a game that's to make it as successful as it is. And
Exactly.
it's just depending on how you look at it. Nobody has to be your enemy, or everybody can be your enemy. It's if you all work together, you're going to make a better game experience for everybody.
Safe with another super chat, another 10 of I think it's that United Emirates dollar or something. But thank you, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
We're going to
I need to
Dubai, baby.
I need to figure out what that is. I think it's United Emirates. Anyways,
Somebody, Jamie, I think might need to rephrase that question. He says, "Is there an option when you start up that says you do not want to share option now?" I think something got garbled in translation there. If you can rephrase that.
I think what they're asking is, can you make it so that you're never sharing any information? And if that's the case, then yes, by default, you're not sharing any information.
Yeah, yeah, we do not force you to share things. We're not Rust admin. We do not force you to opt into a sharing system. So your organization is basically, it should be no different as if you were running a desktop RCON client that had all of our features, right? Like this information is for your use and not for anyone else's, unless you tell us to give it to other people.
This is actually a really valid point. The problem is cheaters have ways to find out, but the admins really don't. We lose players by nailing players for being good at the game because we listen to the wrong player. And unfortunately, that again falls into that same category. It comes with experience. You have to know You have to be able to know when you're being lied to and use the evidence that's in front of you to back that up. You don't ever have to explain that to the person. Look, I'm not going to ban this person just because you got headshot 3 times in a row. I know that this player is good, and you have to be able to back it up for yourself. But you don't necessarily have to tell them why you're not going to impose a ban or are going to impose a ban. They don't need to know that stuff.
Yeah.
Plenty of servers. Yeah. Matsuro says there's plenty of servers that look for moderators. There's always people in my Discord looking for staff, and I'm sure there's plenty in RAC as well that are looking for staff. So it's pretty easy to absorb that knowledge. You just have to want it, and you'll have to chase it out. AED, United Arab Emirates, Durham. Okay.
Good to know.
Where'd the
Good to
Durham
know.
come from?
Yeah, I don't know
never
what the
mind.
Durham. So that's
No, where'd
instead of. Is that instead of dollar?
It's probably just the
don't
name
know.
of the currency. I mean, I think Ukraine has like here. It starts with an H. It's some word I don't remember, but there's it's just not dollar, but it's our equivalent of it.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
Exactly. It's a peso. It's a dirham instead of a peso.
Yeah, you're
There you
going
go.
to Dubai here soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Take that money with you.
Yeah.
Other features, I'm thinking. Oh, okay, yeah, something wrong. Yeah, maybe that is a new feature, but like I said, I don't use Rust admin since it's not my tool.
Yeah.
Other people are probably more knowledgeable about it.
I honestly, I don't have. I stopped using Rust admin about 6 months ago when I started shifting over to BattleMetrics. So I don't know.
All good.
I want to say something that somebody showed me that I did like about Rust admin, and it was, I think, the only difference that BattleMetrics didn't have, at least without making any sort of trigger notification or anything like that, was it had like a risk factor on your list itself, and it would say like, risk rating was like 90% or something like that. That was kind of neat. But you also have something similar in the fact that you can see when the first time a player joins and whenever they have associations tied to their IP address, which is like the information you would need almost.
Yeah, so I think Rust admin has made their own determination about how much weight to give some of those data points. I did some regression analysis on some of this data way back when we're talking like 2016, 2017. The number one thing that predicted whether or not a player would be banned on any given server was how many identifiers they had. So IPs, names, Steam IDs. The more identifiers, the more likely they were to be a cheater. That was the number one. There were not strong correlations on any other set of data that I saw that stuck out. So I'm not sure what Rust admin is using to make their call, but it's probably not super scientific. I mean, by all means, V Floyd can defend himself and with his methodology, but I'm not sure I trust it 100%.
If the developers of Rust admin want to get on here and do a similar thing, I would fully encourage that. And then we could definitely do a side-by-side comparison.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, I'm biased, but I'm open to. I mean, like anybody in the community, it's open to knowledge. Like I'm sure they have features that are cool and helpful and user friendly. And
Absolutely.
everybody I've ever spoken with, and from my experience, like the Chrome mentality, I've downloaded Chrome and I'm stuck with it. I got BattleMetrics and haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly. So just for the chat, I do want to wrap this up here in about 10 minutes. So if you have anything pressing that you would like to ask either Hordicus or Lone, make sure you get it in the chat in the next couple of minutes so we can address it. Or me.
Ask you a question.
Everyone has full access to me all the time. So
yeah, there's another system that people should probably be aware of, and that's the ban sync. I don't know how much people are using that or not. So for those of you that are issuing bans, you'll see an option on your ban form called use ban sync or ban sync enabled. Ban sync is meant to shrink the size of your local ban file. Since the way that BattleMetrics issues a ban is that we have to wait until the player joins before we can kick them, because that's when we get the player join message after they've actually completed connecting. But the Rust ban system will allow the server to reject the connection so that they don't ever get in the server. So if you want to take advantage of that, great. You issue bans to the local game file. But Rust has the limitation that after X number of bans, I think it's something like 800, or it's rather low. The ban list will start lagging the server and causing issues, or it won't completely load if it gets too large.
So just to clarify, you're talking about the ban file that is actually hosted in every single Rust server.
Yeah, I think it's bans.txt or bans.cfg, whatever that file is called.
Yeah.
That if that file gets too big, it will cause you performance problems, if not crash your server. And so ban sync is meant to avoid that. What we end up doing with ban sync is that when you ban a person with ban sync, we kick them from the server and add a ban to that local ban file. Then after a certain amount of time, a day, 2 hours, whatever you set, we will remove that ban from the ban file. And then if the player joins again, we'll kick them again and add the ban to the ban file. But meanwhile, during those 2 days or whatever that the ban is on the file, they can't join, so they don't spam you. So it helps maintain that nice balance of not hitting performance impacts on your server, while also maintaining the ban in our database.
Right.
And also keeping them from spamming you. So that's
Right.
available to you. We have a whole article on it on our knowledge base, if you really want to get into the weeds on it, but it's there.
Which is also another alleviation of stress on your server.
Yeah, that's a big one if you can avoid it.
It is a big one, absolutely. What are the chances you accept my DC friend invite? I think you mean Discord. I would have to check on that, and I will as soon as we're done. Send a pic of the threat indicator screenshot. Okay, I'm going to have a look at that because we were just talking about that.
I'd be careful streaming it in case it has IPs on it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just having a look at it here before I put it up. Okay, so you do have sensitive information on that screenshot, or no, do you? Oh, no, you don't.
Bottom right, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to display that, but that's actually interesting, Hordicus. You might want to look at that if that's something that interests you.
Sure, send it along to me.
Okay.
We can always consider feature improvements, but I know, like I said, I know that we did the regression analysis to try to get some objective measures, and
there we go.
There weren't that many that came up with good ones.
He cleaned it up. So
can you zoom on that? It's a hard one to see. Okay, yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of what I suspected. Basically, it's Rust admin is deciding how much weight to assign to it. It does take obviously you have to make your own assessment about how much weight you give to that score.
Of course.
I just know internally when we were looking at doing this, it ended up not being great as far as all these other variables that you can have. We didn't feel comfortable taking the admin's decision on that away when all they have to do is create a trigger to look for those conditions and send themselves an alert or automatically kick or ban the player when they reach whatever threshold that they decide is important.
Right, gotcha.
Because we did not feel like we had a good position to say this person is likely a cheater or not.
Right.
Because again, the analysis didn't bear it out. The only thing that showed anything remotely risky was the number of identifiers.
Right. And just because they met all of those identifiers doesn't necessarily mean they're cheating.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the cheaters I come across are ones that purchase super cheap, almost no identifier accounts. They'll be like private. They'll have no previous names associated to them. They may be connected on a VPN, but it's like very minimal information as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that I usually get, and it's
so that would totally skate under the radar.
Yeah, and there's no reason you can't set up a trigger for that. Like all of that you can hit with the trigger. So if you decide what you want as an admin to police, the things that you don't want on your server or things that you think are suspicious, make a trigger for it. Like there's no reason you can't. It's just you have to think about, what is risky to you.
Exactly.
Or use the one from the pack. It's got several as well as your examples. Do you have any sort of moderating triggers in your examples?
Me?
I think we've got some.
Oh.
I know like the VPN one's a pretty good one. The
Yeah, we've got like kick non-ASCII
Shadow
player
play.
names. There's kick anyone using family share. You know, for Arma, we have like log violation auto kicks. There's all sorts of them, like fly hack kicks.
Low
Kick
playtime,
non-ASCII
high
player
reward,
names.
high reports counts.
That would
That one's
trigger a
good
lot
one.
of people.
So it just basically you decide what things you want to look for. I know Lone's got a good set in his pack. We've got some examples here. There's even more examples floating around in our Discord. If you look up in the triggers channel and do a search, you will find a lot of trigger links posted by various people.
That's actually where I learned to make triggers, was the ones that are in the BattleMetrics Discord. Because a good example is looking at existing triggers, seeing kind of how they work, taking the time to understand what each action or condition does, goes a long way.
So for those that missed it earlier, there is another link to the BattleMetrics Discord. So if you're looking at triggers, definitely go in and check out that. Plus, if you need any assistance with anything, that's a good place to start. Banning VPNs is a good start. So I struggle with that. And because like I'm literally always behind a VPN. And so that would really screw me over. There's people out there, like especially in this day and age where everyone, you know, NordVPN and 365 and all of these other systems out there, there's getting to be more and more people that are always behind a VPN. So I'd be careful with that one.
I personally don't, but it's worth having like a notification on, maybe if that floats your boat.
That's fair.
It's something, yeah, you decide. It's your server.
Anything cool going on in the Rust community at the moment? Well, we're just hours ahead of a wipe day. Nothing like game breaking happened on wipe day, which was exciting, but they did introduce hardcore mode. And I was actually hoping that somebody in chat would tell me that they have turned on hardcore mode and tell me what they thought about it so far, because I haven't yet experienced it. I plan to tonight. I just haven't yet. But as far as anything else going on in the Rust community, I don't know. Actually, I do have something that I will give you a bit of a sneak preview of. I am working on a project for a server community that is going to blow your effing minds. Picture taking Rust, the game, and merging that together with crypto in real life. That's all I'm telling you about it. That's coming.
What is it? You go mine the rock, you are the blockchain now?
You're not far off.
I think there are a lot of industries going that route. And I'm curious to know if I may know a couple of the people that are working on it.
Chances are good that you know who I'm talking about, and just with that amount of information, I know there's people out there that are going to know who I'm talking about. So if you know, don't say it in chat, because it's kind of
secret. Yeah. It's cool though. I'm excited.
I am too. I can't wait to. I unfortunately I was committed to the guy that I was going to get involved with it this week. Unfortunately, I got screwed over and wasn't able to do that. But now that I have the weekend ahead of me, I should be able to start on that project. So that's super exciting.
That's cool.
It is. The Peachy Viking. Let's see what the Peachy Viking has to say. This is a good note to all admins, owners. Check your plugins. A good majority of common plugins have been updated. To do this update, had to update 15 plugins. Jesus, I didn't even consider that. I haven't looked for any broken plugins on my server. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the details of it, but I have discussed this extensively with them. It's not like that. No, it's not like that or like that. Don't worry. It's going to be good. I think you guys are going to love it. So at this point, I'm going to say, as soon as I figure out how to do this right here, there we go. I want to thank Hordicus from BattleMetrics and Lone from Lone.design for spending what turned into the 2 hours that I thought was only supposed to be 1 hour, going over all of these details. I know that a lot of the stuff we went over tonight might go over a lot of people's heads, and that's okay. That's why I do this, is to get people thinking about the different possibilities, and then it starts that conversation. And if I can't help you with something, I definitely have easy access to the people that can. So if you're thinking about exploring what BattleMetrics can do for you, definitely reach out to the people and the Discords that I've talked about on this stream, because like I can't even, I want to say it's unlimited. There has to be a limitation to what we can do with BattleMetrics, but like I don't think we're there yet. We're not even close. And like if anybody was close to it, it would be Lone, and I know he's not even close. So I want to thank both of you for showing up for this stream. I appreciate your time. Thank you for giving me 2 hours of your Friday night.
No problem, and thanks for
It
having
was
me.
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you showcasing the tool. By all means, people can ask me if they have questions. We also have a very knowledgeable community, so if you post something in our Discord or in one of the Rust Discords, generally there's somebody there that probably has the answer.
Absolutely. So hit up those Discords, join the community, get involved. Thank you all so much for joining tonight's stream. I appreciate every single one of you. I haven't even been looking at the numbers or anything like that, so I don't even know what the engagement was. I hope it was good. I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. And you have to, you guys have to, you have to hit the thumbs up on these streams. Otherwise, YouTube doesn't even know that I'm doing them, and then they get lost. So anyways, thank you both again for coming to this stream. Thank you all for watching the stream, and I'll see you guys all on the next one. I'm going to hit both of you up in the, if you guys would take a 2-minute call in Discord in a minute,
Sure.
I'll
Sure.
catch up with you guys there. Okay. Thanks everybody. See you all on the next one.
Bye guys.